Hi everybody, it's Carla from KC Creates, and today I have some clay mugs I need to make. So I wanted to turn on the camera and create some hand-built ceramic mugs, and if you'd like you can watch while I create. I've made some slabs that I'm gonna I really want to make a real understated simple mug. This one is, I started out, I'm gonna guess this is about 4 inches by 11 inches, and I just made a template using 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, and most of my clay tools are at the studio. So right now I'm mitering the edge. I don't know if you guys know this little trick, but when you're mitering the edge, you kind of hold your knife or whatever you're cutting with at a 45-degree angle, and then to make sure the two are going to meet, you flip it over. I always think like turning the page of a book from left to right, and then cut again at a 45-degree angle, and the two will meet when you put them together. So that's a trick to remember if you sometimes cut them at the wrong angle. And then the other thing I love to do for my scoring tools, which I have several different types of scoring tools, but my favorite one is the one my sister kind of came up with several years ago. You just cut up a piece of cheap plastic comb, and it makes the best score marks, and it helps you get down in the little grooves and crevices easily. So I try to give these out to my students just to say, here, have something to help you out with those clay tools. And they end up being everywhere, so it's helpful, because usually when you're trying to find one, they're nowhere to be found. I can't find my metal rib right now either, because like I said, I don't know what I was thinking, but I left most of my tools at home. I was thinking I wasn't going to do clay, at the studio. I was going to do housework, and of course housework always goes to the end of the list if I find something else I'm a little more intrigued by. So today it's making ceramic cups. So I've already cut out a circle that I'm just going to smooth out the edges a little bit with a sponge. I was able to dig around and find enough tools that I can get by today. I always have random tools somewhere or another. So here I'm just softening the edges that I cut. I'll probably end up trimming it a little bit more, but I want to have decoration on the inside of the cup as well as the outside. So I'm gonna stir together a little mixture of slip and white velvet underglaze by Amco. Let's see, I think I'll mix it in here because I already have a little bit of slip in here. So, oh, this is a new one. Is this a new one? No. Anyway, that'll be plenty. I like to mix it with a little bit of the white because it gives it a more vibrant, or it helps the color show up, because I'm going to paint the white onto speckled brownstone stoneware, and then I'm going to cover it with a transparent cream colored glaze. I have one somewhere, I'll show it to you. But I do want the design on the inside of the cup. What I have in mind is kind of a fairy-esque kind of botanical looking print. Let's see, so this is an adhesive stencil, and I'm just going to lay it onto my clay slab here. I kind of want it to come up really close to the lip, and this will be the bottom. Uh-oh, I don't think I have any scissors. Oh yeah, I do. So if you'd like to just craft with me while I make these cups, I'd love to have your company. I love this stencil. It's kind of gotten expensive because I think it might be a bit of a limited edition now, but it's by Prima Marketing, and I have found it on Amazon, but I'm not sure what it's running price-wise anymore. So anyway, what I'm going to do is brush over the stencil, and this is again just a white porcelain slip mixed with the ultra white velvet Amico underglaze. And this is going to be the inside of the cup because I want the decoration on the inside and the outside. And we're going to go ahead and do 2 of these so that while this one is drying, I may even end up doing 1 more coat of the underglaze. I hope I'm not going to ruin the pattern lifting it. Let's hope it doesn't blur the line. But the beauty of that is if it does blur the line, I can erase it. Let me turn this over so I can cut it straight. I'm not going to worry about it being perfectly straight right now, but I will go ahead and miter the edge again, just holding my little, what is this? It's not really a matte knife, X-Acto at an angle, and flipping it over and cutting it again. Okay. And now I'm going to, let me clean this up a little. It's got little specks on here. Don't know what they are. I'm sure they'll burn off whatever it is, but just in case. I'm going to lay down some more of this and give it another coat of the slip. So we can peel it off without, I actually have an extra roll. I had been sharing it with some students, so I purchased another roll because I'm really enjoying how it looks underneath glaze. I don't usually like to use manufactured stencils or things that were, you know, not original art, but this one doesn't translate into, you know, like a copied thing. I mean, it looks very artsy underneath the glaze and when you add the slips, so I give it a pass. So again, let's just give it a nice brush of the slip and underglaze. And I guess if you are in a bit of a hurry, you could hit it a little bit with a heat gun, but I never really like to add heat or cause rapid drying to my pieces, especially these are going to need to be soft enough to bend into a cylinder. So I'm going to just give it a little minute and let it firm up a little bit, and then I'll be right back. So I was a little worried that it wasn't excuse me, going on dark enough, because I can kind of see it on top, but it is actually transferring nicely. So I'll peel it back for you to see. And I can wipe these off and use them again, so I will. Excuse me. Uh-oh, this one did blur a little bit. If you can see, it didn't make the cleanest transfer, so I'll just remember that for the inside, because, I mean for the outside, because this is going to be the inside. Seeing that it's going to be on the inside, I don't think it's going to be too much of a problem. even though I would prefer it not to be blurry, I'm going to not worry about wiping it off and doing it over again. I'm just going to leave it. And I like to put design on the bottom of the inside as well. So I'm going to go ahead and place my stencil and brush a little bit on the inside too. Give it a good press so it won't move around, hopefully. Okay, I need one more circle for the bottom, and this will probably end up getting trimmed down. I like to cut the base of the pieces a little bit bigger. It's always easier to cut, of course, make it smaller than it be too small. It's too big and then cut it smaller. It's always easier. But I'll show you when I put it together what I do if it ends up being too big. It's an easy fix. Okay, so let's peel this one off and see what we have. Great. And this little edge here is going to be scored and slipped on to the bottom, and you'll never see that little border right there. Let's put the stencil on this one. And I think do it this way. So this is going to have sort of a country look to it. The white is the background of it's going to be like a speckled brown stone. I'm going to keep the natural clay color. I think I'll like that. Alright, so let's peel. Oh, I think I need a little bit more on here. Trying to get it on thick enough. Okay. And we'll peel this one off. Great. So I'll let these rest and dry and then wipe them down. Could wipe that off a little bit. And now I've got two of the inside of the foot resting. Actually, I have handles, but I think I'll wait because I don't put the handles on until the end anyway. But I think I will put some decoration on the handles. So I'm going to score and slip these together. I'm not using real slip, I'm just using water. And I like to overlap it a little bit so that when I seal them together there's a little room for them to slide if it needs to. And I know that I've got the stenciled flowers on the inside, but just squeezing isn't going to interrupt the pattern just by pressing. And if I do, that'll be okay because, like I said, it's on the inside. I'm going to just use the end of my paintbrush and put a little pressure on that. I don't know if you can see on the inside here. And then I'm going to do the same on the outside. Trying not to make, I want to keep the lip as flat as possible. Just give it a good pinch. Okay, and now I'm going to go in and just kind of smooth. I don't know if you can see that. my seam. And sometimes if I can't get my seam smoothed well enough, I'll use what I call a caulking coil. And just take a skinny little coil of clay and blend it over the seam. But this seems to be blending just fine. One of my favorite tools is my wooden knife. And I do have plenty of those extra, so I had one to pull out. I love to smooth with this because the balsa wood is nice and smooth. And so you can pretty much get away with not seeing the seam at all. I'm gonna see what end is less interrupted. This one or this one, to decide what side I want to make the lip. And I definitely think it's this side. So before I get carried away with shaping this, I'm going to go ahead and score and slip on the foot. I'm going to put it on this side. Pull out my handy dandy comb again and score it. Some generous score marks. And if you don't know, the scoring is so that the pieces will fuse together. I'm going to actually use a little bit of water, aka slip, and center this as best I can over my foot to see how much extra I have. And when you pull it off, you should be able to see the water ring, and that tells you where to score. I don't like to score too far into the center because then you have to go down and blend those away. I find if you don't, if you use the cup often for coffee or tea, it stains down in those marks. Little particles of tea and coffee kind of start to build up. So you want to kind of keep those from being in the bottom of your cup. And then I'm just going to add a little more water slip and seal it together. Give it a good little smush. I know I've pushed well when I can see a little bit of the slip oozing out from the bottom seam. Okay, and then I'm just going to take my needle tool and cut around. I'll go ahead and stick it on my banding wheel here. And put a piece of paper down first so it doesn't get stuck. Oops. Another press. Okay. And now I'm going to trim it off, not totally flush to the cylinder, just a fraction of an inch away from the wall of the pot. Like so. And then I'll get rid of the scrap. And something else I like to do, I don't know if this one's too big. Yeah, this one's too big. I like to get a rounder and stick it in the cylinder. This one's almost too perfect of a fit. I don't know if it's helping me out or not, but anyway, you get the idea. If you put something round in, you can get it back in the round really well. Like right here, it's bulging a little bit, and that's okay. I'm just going to squish it in some. And then I take my wooden knife and I hold it at an angle and I just press and do a bit of an undercut. If you can see, some of the clay is curling away, and that's what I want it to do. I'm compressing the foot to the cylinder by doing this, but I'm also making a bit of an undercut, and that's going to help when it's time to wax the bottom of my piece. And you won't see as easily where the, let's see if I can turn it so you can see I'm undercutting. You won't see as easily where the glaze stops. Kind of conceal that a little bit. And I'm going to keep this one as a pretty straight cylinder. If I didn't have decoration on the inside, I like to go in with the curved edge of my wooden knife and kind of belly it out a little bit, but I'm not going to do that on this one because I don't want to disturb the pretty pattern on the inside. But I am going to take a damp sponge and just kind of, well, first I'm going to pinch it a little bit. If I had my pony roller here, I would have tapered it a little bit before I put it into the cylinder shape. But right now I'll just pinch it a little bit because I want to taper it some. I don't want it to have that really flat, squared off edge on the top. And then I'm going to put my finger on the outer side and just kind of roll it over my finger so that it'll have a little bit of a curve, and that way whatever I'm drinking will pour into my mouth, hopefully, instead of dribbling down my chin. So I'm going to just give this a little bit of a curve. And the thing you have to remember when you're making hand-built cups by hand instead of on the wheel, you're never going to get perfectly symmetrical, and I really don't want perfectly symmetrical. I want it to look kind of rustic and, like, I don't know if I should use the word crude, rustic, primitive. I don't know. I just like that kind of not perfect look, especially because I want it to look like something you would use out in the woods, sitting under a tree, having a hot cup of tea or coffee or just even water. I want it to be nature-esque. Is that a word? Anyway, so there's what I really wanted to do, is just kind of soften that edge of the lip. And so the next thing I'm going to do, which I won't do on camera, but I will show you, I'm going to just put my stencil back on, and I'm going to wipe off some of this lip. And then paint the outside with the same pattern. Give it some time to dry, and then add my handle. And that's all you have to do. So I'm going to place this on as straight as I can and give it a nice press. Oh, but you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to have it end where my seam is, and I guess it's a good thing that I can't quite see where my seam was. I think it was here. Yeah, okay. And then put my stencil back on like this. And I'm okay with that little opening right here. Can you see that? Right there. Because that's where my handle's going to go. But until then, I'm going to play with this a little bit just to get it to really get nice and tight up against the cylinder to prevent the clay from bleeding through, or the underglaze, slip underglaze mixture. I might even paint it and then tug it a little bit and then continue painting, not try to do it all at once, but we'll see. Just want to make sure it's nice and snug. to avoid getting a halo or a blurred print. Okay, so that's on there, and I'll go ahead and do that and then come right back. So I wasn't able to get this stencil on as cleanly as I'd hoped, and rather than letting that bother me, I decided that's actually good, because now it'll look a little less manufactured. So what I'm going to do is insert some photos of what some of the mugs that inspired me to create this particular style of a mug, and then I think it'll make sense why it's okay that the pattern got a little muddled, because I kind of want it to have that shabby chic look where it's not perfect. So I can tell my seam is here, and I just made a coil and flattened it a little bit, and now I'm going to score where my seam is. I know that's probably more of a vulnerable spot to put the handle, but I do put my handles on the seam to keep them from, you know, in case you can sort of see the seam, kind of conceals it a little bit. And I just then let them dry slowly. Another trick that if you're not aware of is to put the wax resist around the handles, and it helps them dry a little more slowly, and everything dries a little more evenly. Right now I'm just compressing the handle onto the body of the cup, so you can see, and then I just go inside and hold it there. Gotta make sure it's centered pretty well, and then again I just give it a good push. In order to get my handle on nice and snug. I might even put something like a white little embellishment of some sort. I don't know, we'll see. Or a small little caulking coil, because I didn't have quite enough clay at the top of this handle, and I'm afraid it's a little weak, so I might do that. Let me tip it so you can see. And we'll go ahead and put the other handle on. Trade places. And find my seam. So when they get a little closer to bone dry, I spend some time cleaning up the surface if there's any little bits or crumbs or things that could be smoothed out a bit. I wait till it's not so gummy. And again, I don't quite see where I made my seam. Up there it is. So I'm going to score. Can you see that? Some generous score marks there. I like to put at least a ½ inch to an inch of the handle up against the form, so there's enough to hold on. My comb scoring tool is getting a little gummed up, so I need to clean that a bit. And then I always attach it, like I said, about a ½ inch from the lip. It helps ergonomically when you're holding it to fit better in your hand and feel better in your hand if you don't attach it too close to the lip. At least that's the way I've experienced my handmade cups. So again, I'm just gonna compress. Sometimes I'll hold it there as if I'm waiting for the glue to set. See some minor cracking here too that I'm gonna have to take care of. And then the same at the bottom, just kind of make sure it's centered. And give it a squeeze. hold it there for a minute, make sure it's nice and snug, and it is. Sometimes I'll just kind of flare it out a little bit underneath. Excuse me. And so if you can see that little minor cracking there, sorry, that's when I take a wooden tool of some sort. This is just a big craft stick, and blend it in gently. And that took care of that minor cracking. And then I'm going to put it back in the round by finding a little cup or something that's not too snug, but a little tighter than this, to kind of round it out and make sure it's nice and round. But there are my two hand-built mugs, and I'll show you some pictures of the ones that inspire me. Here's one that I actually made, and I love to use, and you can sort of see the pattern of the stencil. This was an opaque glaze that I put over the top though, so it didn't show through as well. The glaze that I'm going to use on these is going to be a little more transparent. But this is one of my coffee cups that I use pretty much every day. Works really well. So thanks for joining me as I made hand-built ceramic mugs, and I will maybe get a chance to come back and show you them finished, but if not, you can see this one and see that this is pretty much what I was going for in my handmade mugs. Have a good day.